Shalom Aleichem, sweetest friends! This is so amazing. We are continuing our shiurim in the Sefer Meshech Chochma. In the previous shiur, we discussed the pasuk in Parashas Matos. Eila hachukim asher tziva Hashem es Moshe ben ish lishto ben av levito ben urea beis avia. We asked what the extra words ben urea beis avia. Of course, ben av levito are only when she's in her father's home. If she's out of her father's home, she's an adult woman. She's obviously not. Her father cannot revoke her vow. So we said, Ben Ureh Beis Avia is talking about a case where the father sold his daughter as an Alma Ivriya. The father cannot revoke her vow because maybe afterwards the Adon's going to do Yehud. The Adon's going to marry her to himself or to his son. And the most Rishonos, according to one opinion of the Gemara, the Kiddushin Nitnu, were given for Kiddushin. Kum Tois, that she was an Arusa from the get-go, Misha Rishona. And the father cannot be Mefer Levado, Nidre Bito Arusa. Father can't do it alone. He can't revoke the vows of his Arusa daughter. He needs the husband as well. And therefore only Mishis in Urah Beis Avia, and she has no husband. And she has no Adon, both. Only then can he revoke her vow. But if she has an Adon, if she's in her Adon's house, then he can revoke her vow, because maybe it'll turn out that he does Yehud, and then she was his wife from the beginning. So now with this Mahalach, the Meshech Chochma is going to be Miyashev, the pasuk that talks about Din Hafaras Ablabito Benu Ureh. It says in the pasuk, if the father moved her away, literally, on the day he hears, then her Isurim and Adarim aren't valid. Vi-Hashem Yislach law, and God will forgive her. Because her father revoked the vow. The father removed her from these vows. Since the father revoked the vow, Memela, God will forgive her for being over in the Nadarim, which didn't count. So, Madar Freshtain, we have to understand. If the father revoked the vow, what does she need slicha for? So, based on what the Ramashachah, the Heilige Meshech Chochma explained in the previous pasuk, in the previous shiur, this is Parak Lamed pasuk Vav, and the previous shtickle was Parak Lamed pasuk Yud Zayin. Ein muktim lucher b'Torah. So the Fiyam Avor, we can explain that it's talking about a case where the father sold his daughter as an Alma Ivriya, just like we said in the previous shiur. And afterwards, she made a neder. And the father revoked her vow. And she ate. And then afterwards, the Adon did Yehud. And then it was Mizbar L'Mafreya that she was in Arusa when her father revoked her vow. And the Hafara, therefore, the revoking of the vow, wasn't Chal. Because the father cannot be Mefer L'Bito Arusa Levado. The father can't do it alone. And it turns out then that she ate B'Isser. And therefore she needs Kapara. And it's like somebody who intended to do heter. Niskavin lecho b'sar tle, v'ala biyado b'sar chazir. He wanted to eat kosher meat, kosher sheep. Mary had a kosher lamb, Miriam. We'll change her name to Miriam. And he ended up eating unkosher. He ended up eating chazarai. So that's what happened over here. Why Vi-Hashem Yislach? Why does she need slicha? Why does she need slicha? Her father revoked her vow. She did no wrong. The answer is, you know why she needs slicha? Because she did an avera. What was the avera? That her Adon did Yehud. If her Adon did Yehud, then it turns out that she was married to him all along. If she was married to him all along, the father's hafara wasn't chal. If the father's hafara wasn't chal and she was over on the neder, she needs slicha. According to this, we can explain, says the Rebbe, Vi-Hashem Yislach la ki v'osa, behave for love via v'achla, that it's talking about a case where her father did the hafara and she ate. V'achar zezman rav yadadon, and then afterwards the other was mi'ayder. Im kein ishtakach de arusa hi me'ikara leha'adon, and it turns out that originally she was an arusa. V'im kein below hafara so I saw sur lechol, and therefore without his hafara she wasn't allowed to eat. V'Hashem Yislach la, now God in fact needs to forgive her. She needs forgiveness. She wanted to eat kosher meat, and she ended up eating b'sar chazir. She ended up eating unkosher meat, and she needs a kapara. And according to this, we can answer nachakash. That's what I love about the Meshech. Meshech, one little shtickle, answers 5 kashas. He's always answers here, he answers there. All bekitzer nimrats. That's why it's hard to read the Meshech sometimes, because you need to so bekitzer. So Baruch Hashem, wherever Yehuda Kuberman, when he wasn't mimachanech thousands of girls, the Torah of the Yerushalayim, so they can build holy homes and make a living. He was also writing a parish in the Meshech. And today they also have Rav Daskel, who's a dayan, a vision sir in Bnei Brak. He has a sefer and he puts out a weekly sheet also being mefarish the Meshech. And we also have Rav Domb, who is a dayan. So he also has a parish in the Meshech. So Baruch Hashem, we have Aznayim LaTorah. I'll go back to our shtickle. Later on in Pasuk Yud Gimel, we're talking about a farsa. It says, "V'imafir yafer otam isha biyom sham'o kol motza svatea linedareo lisar nafsha lo yakum isha yifer haferam v'Hashem yislach la." That if her husband revokes the vow on the day he hears it, all that comes out of her mouth and her nedarim and her isurim will not stand up. Her husband revoked, and God will forgive her. Says the Gemara in Kedusha and Daf Pei Aleph Amud Beis. Tanya Isha Feira B'Hashem Yislach La B'ma Kotzav Medaber. B'Isha Shenadra B'Nazir V'Shem Ba'ala V'Hefer La. A woman made a neder to be a nazir, and her husband revoked it. V'lo Yada Shefer La Ba'ala, but she didn't know about it. V'Isa Sheisiyayin Matam L'Meisim, and she wantonly drank wine and became Tamei Meis. That's what the pasuk is talking about. That's why, even though Hashem Hafeiram, nevertheless Hashem Yislach La. God still has to forgive her because she intended to do an Aveira, even though it turns out she didn't because her husband revoked the vow. Rabbi Akiva, when he got to this pasuk, he would cry, Aboche. Amar Uma mi shenitkaven le'chol b'sar chazir. ועלה בידו בשר תלה, אמרה תורה, צריכה כפרה וסליחה, מי שנתכוון לאכול בשר חזיר, ועלה בידו בשר חזיר, על אחת כמה וכמה. If, says Rabbi Akiva, somebody who wanted to eat treifa meat, and he ended up eating kosher meat, the Torah says he needs kapara and slicha. Somebody who intends to eat unkosher meat and eats unkosher meat, certainly needs kapara and slicha. So the shaila is, why do we make this drasha dafka now on the hafaras habal and not earlier on in the hafaras ha'av? Umar could have darshan the same thing. You know why she needs slicha? Because her father revoked the vow and she didn't know and she ate anyway and she thought she was doing an avera. It turns out she wasn't. And therefore she needs slicha. And Rabbi Kiva cried because he says, oh boy, if you intended to do an avera, I don't know why Rabbi Kiva needs this to cry. You do an avera, it's a horrific thing. But I guess Rabbi Kiva has a new knech in the Chomer Havera, even just intending to do an avera. So now you get it not only on the Maisa avera, but also on the Kavanas avera. So why doesn't this whole Gemara in Rabbi Akiva said about Hafaras Ha'av, why only on Hafaras Habal? But based on what we learned, it's very good. Because earlier on about Hafaras Ha'av, we can explain we're talking about in another instance. That she thought that Hafar was Chal. Because she thought she was eating kosher. And it turns out she was eating Chazir. She thought that she was eating kosher because her father revoked her vow. She didn't know her Adam was going to be miyayid her, and then her father's hafara is not good, is not effective. She thought it is effective. So therefore, it's not talking about. It's not talking about this case of her intending to do an avera. Since it's not talking about the case of her intending to do an avera, the Gemara didn't make the whole drasha. The Gemara only made it on the first habal. So it's two different cases. It's two different hechetimtzis. One is where she didn't think she was doing an avera, but it turns out lamafreya she was, because her husband. It ended up that her Adon was her husband, and therefore she needed his afar as well, and she didn't get it. So her afar was no afar, and she was over on the neder. And here, when it's about the Baal, it's talking about before she wasn't over on the neder, but she thought she was. But l'chein b'sof kiddushin continues the Meshech Chochma. L'niskaven le'echol b'sar chazir. V'ala b'yado basar tleh ma'isi kra disha afer v'Hashem Yislach la. Therefore, they bring this later pasuk of Hashem eferam v'Hashem Yislach la, and not the earlier pasuk Isha eferam v'Hashem Yislach la, not the earlier pasuk of the father being mefer. The kulu midrash came b'sifri umishum degabe av mitzinan lemidrash kamosha pirashti v'hasifri delo mugi came mishum. O the saver the mos rishonos lav lekidushin nitnu. O the saver the mufla samach lish lav dvar Torah v'ktani ve'ein atzricha kapara. Vayein benida the chadman the amar saver who be'atzma loika mishum bal yachel uledidei yitachin ki the pirishis v'doik b'chol zeh. So he tells us the doik b'chol zeh, but in order to doik b'chol zeh, we have to understand what he is saying. It says in this parsha 3 times the father, when he revokes the daughter's vow, the hafara of the arus la'arusaso, that's in pasuk tes, says again, v'im biyom shmo isha yani osa beferes nidra asher aleh v'es miftas v'aseh asher asra al nafsha Vi-Hashem Yislach la. So one is her father being mefer, one is her husband being mefer, and then in pasuk Yud Gimel, ba'afar is ba'ali ishto. So 3 times Vi-Hashem Yislach la. In the Sifri, Kufnan Gimel and Kufnan Dalet, it darshans these psukim differently. It darshans than we've been darshaning. Now, as we said that when it's talking about a father and a daughter, it's talking about the instance that Lemafreya turns out that she was married to her Aris. When it talks about a woman and her husband, there it's talking about where she didn't know. And it also says she didn't know that her husband revoked her vow and she did the avera in her mind anyway, so she needs slicha. So we darshan the 2 differently, but the Sifri darshans them the same. As a matter of fact, all 3 are talking about the same case. That she got hafara, but she didn't know. So this is a case of niskaven lecho b'sar chazir v'ala b'yado b'sar tleh. So we have to understand how come the Sifri didn't darshan like we wanted to say. B'far sa'av, that it's talking about where it turns out Lemafreya that she was also married to the Aris. He was Mefer and then Hafar was Batal. No. It says that all 3 are talking about cases where She didn't know about that far. So he gives a number of possibilities. We can say that the Sifri is learning that Mos Rishonos Lav L'Kedusha Nitnu. The original money wasn't given for Kedushin. And therefore she wasn't in Jerusalem Afreya. If she wasn't in Jerusalem Afreya, what's the Vi-Hashem Yislach La? Hashem Yislach La, we said it's because she was in Jerusalem Afreya and she didn't get that far from her husband. So what is, but according to the Mandam, Mos Rishonos Lav L'Kedusha Nitnu, she couldn't have been in Jerusalem Afreya. So therefore, the Sifri says it's talking Pashut about a case where her father was Mefer, and she Pashut didn't know, and she was over on the Neder anyway. That's one possibility. Another possibility is that the Sifri is learning that a Nara doesn't get Malchus. Since the Sifri learns that a Katan cannot make a Neder min HaTorah. And even though it says in Nida that Mufla Samach Li'ish, that if you're within a year of being a Gedola, then you're Nadarim or Nadarim, that's only Midrabanan. But Midoraisa, she has to be a Gedola. And therefore it can't be talking about a case where the father sold her as an Amma and then was Mefer La. Because when can the father sell an Amma? Only when she's a Ketana. But when she brings Cyrus and she's 12 and she's a Naira, the father can no longer sell his daughter. So let's again see inside the Meshech Chochma. That explains. See what I'm saying. According to my Havana, it's very good. Why in Kedushin we only darshan Hashem Yislach La, that she thought she was doing an Aver, but she really wasn't on the later pasuk of Isha Afer when her husband revoked, but not on the earlier pasuk of her father, because if Mayo Kim did that, it's talking about where her father sold her as an Am Ivri, and then later on there was Yehud, and then Lamafreya, she was married to him, and she didn't get the Hafar of the Arus, and therefore her vow wasn't revoked, and that's why she needs Slicha. But the Kula Midrash became a Sifri. In the Sifri, they darshan all of these Hashem Yislach Las as her not knowing. But I say, Mishum the Gabi haven't seen in the Midrash come up Shapirashti. So I'm going with the Bavli. The Sifri wants to say all of them are saying Hashem Yislach La. It's referring to where she didn't know. But why does the Bavli, the Gemara, only say it's that make this drasha about her husband and not about her father? Because maybe the Bavli is learning like me. Vasifri delom muki kain. Why didn't the Sifri say my pshat about the father revoking the vow and then later on her becoming an Arusa Lamafreya? Mishum od desaver Mos Rishonos lav l'kedushin nitnu. Even the first money wasn't given the kedushin, and if the first money wasn't given the kedushin, Mimela, you can't say she was an Arusa Lamafreya. So you have to say that Vi-Hashem Yislach La is talking about where she thought she was doing. She thought she was doing an Aver. She just didn't know that her father revoked her vow. Or the Sifri is learning like the opinion in the Gemara that Mufla Samach Lish is only Midrabanan, it's not Daraisa. So therefore, when she's a Ketana, and we're talking here about a Ketana, she's in her Adon's house, she's serving her Adon. And that's until 12. Anama goes out B'Shanim B'Simanim. And this Amma is a Ketana. This Amma is a Ketana. And her Neder is not Dvar Torah. And therefore she doesn't get Malchus. Ve'netzricha kapara. It's when Hashem Yislach La. She's only a Ketana. So therefore we can't darshan it about this Amma in her Adon's house, because the Sifri is learning that such a girl doesn't require kapara. But where the Meshech Chochma is going lefi the Mandi Amar, that she does require kapara, and therefore Vashem Yislach La. Because it turns out that Lemafreya, she was an Arusa, And if Lemafreya, she was an Arusa, and her husband didn't also revoke the vow, turns out she was over on the vow. But the Sifri that didn't want to make that Ukimta, it's because the Sifri understands that Mufla Samach Lish, that making a neder when you're Samach Lish, when she's a year before becoming of age, is Lav Dvar Torah, it's not Min Torah, she's only Ktana, Ve'ena Tzricha Kapara. And then the Meshech Chochma concludes, V'ayin B'nida, D'chad Man Di Omar Savar, Dehu Be'atzma Loka Mishum Bal Yachel, Uledidei Yitachen Kidde Pirishis. Nevertheless, you can even, says the Meshech Chochma, learn like him, according to the Man Di Omar, that Ktana Ein Nidorea Neder Min HaTorah. Even according to the Man Di Omar, it's not Dvar Torah. According to the Man Di Omar, Nida Mem Vav Amid Beis, that if the father made a neder for the cotton, and the cotton was over on the neder, the gadol who was made there, the cotton, gets malchus for the maisa cotton. So it's very simple. We could be talking about a case where the father was made a neder for his bito aktana. Then he sold her as an Ama Ivriya. Then he was made for the neder. Then she ate. She was over on the neder. In such an instance, he gets malchus. If she eats b'mezid, he gets malchus. He's the one who needs kapara. So since he needs kapara, so that's, we do need slicha. So according to this pshat, it turns out that he sold her as an amma. And then after he sold her as an amma, and she made a vow and he revoked the vow. And then it turns out the husband did yiyud, the other did yiyud. She was married, and her zafar is not afara. So in such an instance, the father is going to be loke mishum bal yachel, because his daughter was over on the neder. So according to that, you can say like we said. The only thing is what's the Vi-Hashem Yislach lo? Maybe to say lefize Vi-Hashem Yislach lo. That I don't understand. Al kol panim, we have here for the Meshech Chochma very beautifully a new Havana in why only in the later pasuk it says, the Gemara darshans, that the Hashem Yislach La means that only when it's talking about a Faras Habal, that it's talking about where she intended to do an Aveira because she didn't know about the Afara, and therefore she needs Slicha because she did an Aveira. But not on the earlier pasuk of Aviyah, because Aviyah is not talking about where she didn't know, and that's why she needs Slicha. It's talking about where she became an Orus, like we learned in the previous year. She became an Arusa, Lemafreya, and therefore the father's Afar wasn't good, and therefore she needs Slicha. And we learned that Sifri learns all of them, that all cases are talking about where she didn't know, and that's because possibly he holds most Rishonos Lav the Kedushin Nitnu, or Mufla Samach Lish is not Dvar Torah, and she's only Ketana, doesn't require Kapara. But if you learn not like that, if you learn that most Rishonos were given for Kedushin, you can say beautifully like the Meshech Chochma, and not beautifully like the Sifri. It's all beautiful. And the Meshech Chochma continues in this Mahalach, and I'm hoping Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us the Koach and the Moach, and we will be able, b'siyata d'shmaya, to continue this train of thought in the next year, and we should be zoche lilmod ulelamed lishmor v'las l'kaimis kol divrei salmo teresa b'ahava. Amen v'amen. Shalom shalom, sweetest and most beloved friends.